Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Pensacola, Florida, it's time for Iten Wired Radio, brought to you by IT Gulf Coast, Florida West, and App River.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Keith Everett here, broadcasting live from our final and last new studio here in the CIE building in downtown Pensacola. And I am surrounded by a whole bunch of sponsors for Iten Wired. And I'm actually going to let them go around the horn and introduce themselves. So, but Laura, by all means, you're up.
My name is Laura Campbell, and I am with New Horizons Computer Learning Centers.
Go ahead, Curtis.
My name is Curtis Cantrell, and I'm with Southtel.
Good morning, Jennifer McFerrin with Gulf Power Company.
Awesome. Okay. So you're all sponsoring I-10, and obviously we're on I-10 Wired Radio. So let's talk about that for a minute. Why you got involved and why this is something that either you personally or the companies that you work with want to participate in. Yeah, just jump right in. Just pour the heart out, Laura.
Well, New Horizons, I actually got involved in the planning committee for I-10 Wired, mainly because I wanted New Horizons to get more involved in the community. And I think it makes an enormous amount of sense since we have such great synergy between our corporate training and our consumer training when we're talking about having more employable people and giving a reason for technology companies actually to make their home here in the Gulf Coast.
And so what does New Horizons do for those that don't know?
New Horizons is actually an IT certification programs. That's what we're offering. We're unlike a four-year institution. That's not where you come if you want to get a four-year degree. It's really about being able to get your start in an IT career. We do everything from an initial A+ certification course to get you prepared to be help desk technician, all the way through advanced courses in ethical hacking.
Ethical hacking.
Yes.
Is that sort of a contradiction in terms, isn't it?
It is.
So, and you all do this, you do it online, you do it live, you do it through...
We actually have sort of three modalities of training. We have live instructors. Mm-hmm. So for our corporate partners, we can do on-site training as well as training at our facilities at a number of our locations. We're in Birmingham, we're in Pensacola, we're in Gainesville. We also have online training, but that comes with a live instructor. So it's different from sort of work at your own pace or a
pre-recorded webinar, as we were talking about.
Pre-recorded webinar.
Yeah.
But a live instructor that gives you the ability to actually take it from whatever place is convenient for you. And then we do have learn at your own pace, which is a more affordable option for some.
So, and it's all IT driven, correct? So, I mean, everything from programming to sort of how the systems work and stuff, or?
I would say yes and no. On our consumer side, a lot of what we're known for is that foot in the door for an IT career. So there's a lot of training around the IT space.
Yeah.
On the corporate side, we actually do an enormous amount of IT training, but we also do project management. Mm-hmm. We do all the applications training, Adobe. We get into professional development, soft skills. So everything from leadership to conflict resolution to things, so we cover the gamut on the corporate side, but I would say we're probably best known and we get more students in that are veterans that come in that want to get a career in IT.
Yeah. Okay. Very neat. So Curtis, jump in here because other than me talking you into being a part of this, tell us what Southtel is for those that don't know.
Yeah, and before I go into Southtel, let me ask you a quick question, if you don't mind. How does the ITT departure change your industry with that technical facility being gone now?
Great question, actually. ITT Tech was a four-year institution, so unfortunately for many of the students, that got loans, student loans, and Pell Grants. That's actually not something we can actually help with. They have kind of been left and they're scrambling. They need to get their money back. They need to get re-enrolled. Where we're sort of in a unique position to really help are mostly the veterans, the ones that were using their post 9/11 to get IT trained. Anybody that was in there that needed to get certification, were looking to get into the IT field. We've already picked up a number of students that have walked in to say, "Can you help me?" And because we have 20 years experience here in Pensacola, we have someone on my staff that has 15 years experience working with vets. It's a really easy transition for us to sort out their benefits and get them enrolled. We are a preferred military education facility. So that's something that we've been especially able to help with.
Yeah, very good, very good. Well, Saltel, we're a communications company. We do voice, data, video, and sound, and that's basically everything that we cover.
Yep. And so Curtis is also going to be broadcasting live at I-10 Wired, and will hopefully after today, because I'm going to give him the check off, he's going to be one of my co-hosts for I-10 Wired, if not the host, because then that means I get to talk less. So if he starts asking questions, it's okay. Like he got the permission slip.
Well,
so.
getting Keith to talk less is probably not an easy thing.
Well, it's not. I can tell you that right now. That's for sure. But I am going to volunteer myself for that one. But Curtis, what about obviously we're going to be broadcasting and we're going to be talking to a lot of people. But what are the biggest things with I-10 that you have enjoyed, and that some of the things that we've bounced around about why you want to be there?
Well, we think the exposure to the IT market is probably key with this. It's the biggest thing that's happening on the Gulf Coast, and that's why we wanted to be a part of it. We need that exposure as a company to let people know what we do.
Yeah. Are you finding a lot of gaps with some of the employment things and issues around here that you're having as well? Yeah,
absolutely.
Laura and I were talking about that earlier, and I know, Jen, I know you're in the community a whole bunch, so I'm sure that comes up as well, but. It's just one of those things because it's moving so fast, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So Jen, talk to me about Gulf Power.
Sure. So we're excited to sponsor I-10 Wired this year, I think primarily because the mission of I-10 Wired totally aligns with our focus on economic development. Gulf Power Company has been engaged in economic development throughout Northwest Florida for as long as I can remember, for years and years, decades, in fact. And I think what we're seeing, especially in the past few years, my background was also in economic development, working with Kelly and Scott at Florida West, doing workforce development. And the traditional model of economic development, or that process of kind of the buffalo hunt, doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Our economies are very different. The way that jobs are created are very different. And I think particularly our region really recognizes that diversification of our economy and making sure that we're focusing on high growth industries such as technology through supporting entrepreneurship and innovation is critical for the growth of our economy. So certainly the regional footprint of I-10 Wired is perfectly in alignment with our service territory, with our customers. We really do focus on the fact that when our community and when our region is healthy, we're healthy as a company.
Yeah.
So anything that we can do to really support and be a partner at the table and engage in making sure that our economy is vibrant and sustainable is critical for us.
Is that the biggest tactic that you're seeing changing, is moving towards the entrepreneur and the tech kind of things?
I think that it's a number of different things. When you look at the economy of Northwest Florida, kind of that three-legged stool of tourism, military, certainly in the Pensacola community, healthcare is huge. They're all great industries, but they all have risks associated with them, as we've seen, unfortunately, with the BP oil spill, with different military things going on, potentially BRAC and others, policy changes, certainly. So, but nonetheless, all great industries that have created a stable foundation for our community. But it's always wise for us to focus on diversifying our economy to create a more stable work environment for our citizens, and really to focus on where the future economy is heading. And I think that technology, certainly, it's becoming that blurred line of, is it its own industry, or rather from a workforce perspective, it's a foundational critical component for any type of company. I mean, you look at the banking industry, for example, quite often those are really IT companies that are in the financial industry.
Yep.
And so those skill sets really are foundational and cut across so many industries.
Well, Curtis and I were talking about this the other day too. There is not and this is one of the other things that I really loved about Iten was that you didn't have to be technically a tech company, right, to be part of this or to be in it, because it touches everything you do. When Curtis and I were talking the other day, and I said, well, who's your ideal client? And he was like, anybody who uses data or a phone, right? Because
which is everyone.
Which is everyone, because it's all there. So, you're in the mix, and just as well. I mean, there's not a person here who isn't touched by some form of technology and needs to integrate it into who they are and what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason that technology touches all of us, and in business today, you have to have internet, you have to have data, you have to have communications, and it's not just one form of communications, it's everything. I've got to be able to get caught on the cell phone. I've got to have communications with my office, and I need to tie all that together where I can turn on a laptop from anywhere and get my messages and email and all that. So yeah, that's where technology's gone. That's what's driven us into the IT part of the business, because the two are so closely related now.
Yeah. And you're teaching, I mean, what kind of companies are y'all doing training for? I mean, are they strictly IT companies, or is it really like anyone and everyone?
I actually was just going to say, it goes the same way as training. There's not, when someone says, who's your client list? Like, who do you work with? It's everybody.
Yeah.
We work with, companies like, General Dynamics. We work with school systems. We work with the Escambia County Sheriff's Department. We work on everything from, small business to huge conglomerates, because in one way or another, they all need training. We work with the military bases.
Yeah.
So there, I always say it's, when you step in as a salesperson for a company, it's like, who do you call? Everybody.
Yeah.
There's going to be someone that needs training, and we want to help them get to where they want to go in terms of education and where they want to bring their business. It's a great, return on investment to invest in your employees. And I think that's the other part that I love talking to companies about, is the idea of investing in your employees. And I remember the saying is, people will say, well, if we invest in our employees, they're going to leave. And
because that makes sense, right?
The saying is always, well, what if you don't invest them and they stay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm a big believer. I think it creates loyalty, and I think that you get a huge benefit from, investing in them, and them feeling valued, and to bring that expertise back to your company.
Yeah.
And see the benefits of them.
So, and I'm going to add to that, because one of the things that I learned, later in life than sooner, but when you are an employee of a company, or when you're an owner of a company, you have employees, and people grow, and they grow beyond your company. Like, you should welcome, like, that should be that should feel very good to you.
Absolutely.
Right? Because there's times when people know you're ready for the next level, right? And they don't have the next level. So you're right. You invest and they're going to stay as long as they can, but you need to be okay when they go.
That's right. That's right.
Curtis, back me up.
Yeah, an employee will come to work for you because they're hired, but they'll stay because they're appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think that culture has so much to do with it too, which is why I'm excited about Iten Wired, because we see so many companies in our region that are really supportive of their employees engaging and volunteering to plan the event, to execute it, to be there, and to attend as participants as well. And I think that, there's the formal training of certifications, but there's also kind of this culture of collaboration and cohesiveness when we can all come together around a common vision, a common cause, a common effort, such as Iten Wired. And I think that that's a key form of supporting our employees and people in the region.
That's the whole reason I stayed involved.
Right.
We broadcast last year, and we were doing it just to get into it and get me a little practice, because I'd only been up and running for like 2 weeks, right? So, and Stone, my business partner, just kind of threw me into it. But by the time I left there, and I've told you this before, Curtis, everyone that I spoke to and interviewed had some form of break down the silos, be collaborative, be cohesive, like let's build a better community so that we can all stay here and be wonderful. And I thought, man, what a refreshing take on Pensacola for me, because honestly, I've been traveling for the last 4 years, so things have changed. the tumbleweeds weren't down Palafox anymore either. But, but for me, I was like, this is something I could totally get along with. Right. And so here we are, committee after committee after committee after planning meeting later, but it's just one of those things that happens. I think the three of you also embody that in what you all do. I mean, you've got community stuff going on out the yang. Yeah.
Well, and I feel so fortunate to work for Gulf Power Company in the role that I do, because our department and my job is primarily designed around how can we engage in regional collaboration to build capacity of our communities. I mean, certainly there's a bit of self-enlightened interest in that, and that when our communities and our citizens and our customers are healthy, then we're healthy as a company. But at the same point, we really deeply believe in engaging and empowering our community. And we really see entrepreneurship and the growth of our technology sector as a key avenue to do that. For example, in the past year, we've been working kind of organically to bring together different entrepreneurial support organizations together. So for example, I think about a year and a half ago, I started facilitating, I guess I'll call them field trips, where we brought different partners from Pensacola over to the Advanced Technology Center in Panama City who didn't know one another existed.
Yeah.
And the ability for us to leverage those resources as a region, to understand the assets that one another has. It's been a really cool journey to see. And I think that Iten Wired emulates that as well. Yeah. And when we benchmark other communities that are succeeding in regards to entrepreneurial development and fostering growth in the technology sector, really, I think the common denominator is that collaboration and creating venues such as Iten Wired, such as regional conversations that promote that. So I'm grateful that Gulf Power, I think, sees that as a key priority for our program of work.
Yeah, and there's life past Fort Walton, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, past Fort Walton. We've got some incredible assets in Panama City, and we're that much more powerful as a region. Yeah,
and Stephen Donovan was the closing keynote last year, and his was probably one of the most powerful talks I'd heard, but it gave you that warm and fuzzy of like, yes, let's all be family and let's all make this happen. But you're right. There's a whole IT side of Panama City that I had no idea existed. So Curtis, I see his gears turning. He's thinking maybe we got to go on a field trip.
Come along.
Yeah, I know,
I'll let
right?
you know.
Yeah, call us. We'll go.
That's right.
So what else does Gulf Power have going on in the community lately, since that's sort of what you do?
Sure, absolutely. We're engaged in a few different areas right now. In particular, we have our Gulf Power Economic Symposium that's kicking off this Sunday, October 2nd, over in Panama City at the Sheraton. We are expecting about 500 different partners throughout Northwest Florida, diverse sector representation from business leaders, government, military, education, nonprofit, civic, philanthropy sectors that all come together every year. It's our 20th symposium.
That's crazy.
We have Damon John, who is coming as our keynote this year. You'll probably recognize him from Shark Tank, FUBU founder as well. And we have some other great speakers coming to really talk about the future of Northwest Florida. Our theme this year is Engage, Connect, and Grow. So on the first day, we'll have some speakers in that are going to help us think about what might the future of Northwest Florida look like. As we're celebrating our 20th symposium, we're also thinking strategically and regionally about how we can intentionally grow in key areas. We're going to be taking a new approach this year and engaging the attendees and the audience in some collaborative visioning sessions on what that might look like. Certainly having been inspired by some of our keynote speakers we're bringing in. And then on the second day, we're going to focus really on how do we make sure that all citizens in Northwest Florida are engaged in economic prosperity? So how do we really look at some of our citizens who might be under-resourced or don't traditionally have the opportunities to engage in IT training or pursue a post-secondary education because they're not workforce ready or because there have been barriers in their life that have prevented them from being able to do that. So it's a neat approach that we're taking for day two. And I think it's a conversation that the region is ready to have together.
Yeah. I think you hit on something. We're ready to start having some conversations that 2 and 3 years ago we weren't ready to face and just be honest. So very cool. Either the two, you've got some stuff going on. I mean, Laura, I know you're trying to get as knee deep into the community as possible because that's just who you are. But you can only serve on so many committees, right?
Right. Well, the Iten Wired has really been such an eye opener. I keep saying I can't wait till year 2. because this year has just been such a learning experience.
Yeah.
I feel like I'll have much more of an impact next year. But it's been great. I've had a chance to get involved and got to know a lot of people. I mean, we have some really incredible people on the planning committee.
Yeah.
And one of the things that that Jennifer was just talking about, it's something that we've been trying to do. We did a collaboration with CompTIA, and we're holding a 2-day free class at towards the end of October. And it's opened to really take a look and to give people an opportunity to see what IT training is like, and see what having a career in IT would be about. See, once they go through the CompTIA introductory class that we've put together with them, to see if they have a real interest in it. And then, there's lots of different avenues to help them get through the courses that they need just to get started.
Yeah.
And that really does bring with it the opportunity to make a very good living.
Yeah.
And it's, my focus is, how do we get the word out? How do we get the word out to people that don't want to go to college, that see this as a viable opportunity and have this incredible passion for technology?
Yeah.
And I am constantly amazed at the people that I talk to that didn't know about Iten, didn't know about, computer learning centers, the New Horizons, so I think that Iten plays a huge part in getting the word out in the community, that not only are there options for so many of the people that want to stay in the Gulf Coast, or to give people a reason to move back here.
Yeah.
And really sort of pick up the torch, if you will, for people. I mean, I'll just speak from my personal experience. I moved away. I was in New York for 14 years. I was looking at job boards in Pensacola long before I moved back.
Sure.
And I just never saw an opportunity. Right. So I think this really, something I learned working for a nonprofit. You have to do things like this. You have to get involved in the community. And when you get involved, you have to stay involved.
Yeah, you got to have some boots on the ground for
because that sort of brings up the entire community, not just a certain section of the community, but everybody.
And I'll also add to what you said, Laura. I think it's not only engaging citizens in Northwest Florida who don't want to go to college, but let's be honest about the realities of what our labor market requires. And only 20% of the jobs in Northwest Florida really require a 4-year degree and beyond. And I think that we need to do a better job via avenues such as I-10 Wired about really talking about the realities of what our labor market requires, and making sure that there's an alignment occurring between how we're preparing our students and really what the needs of our businesses are.
Great point.
And to put this in perspective, New Horizons is not unique just to Pensacola, right?
That's correct. We're actually in 75 different countries.
Right.
Our
yet
group,
you still chose Pensacola. High five on that one.
I love the Gulf Coast. We actually just in our group alone cover all of Alabama, all of Northern Florida, all of South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're in a lot of locations, and that's the nice thing, that when we talk to anybody, even with job placement, I mean, we connected someone that was going to Japan and connected them up. That's awesome. And we can do job placement. We can make the connections for people. So it does really create a lot of synergy. That's why I like working with companies that have multiple locations. Right. Not only do you have lots of different choices about where you can come into our centers to get trained, but we have the ability to go wherever you are and bring our instructors with us. So
very cool. Sure. Curtis, what do you got going? Like, I know you're heading up new synergy groups and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. We've just added. I'm in charge of development for the Pensacola Synergy Group number 2. And
number 2.
we actually meet today. As a matter of fact,
yeah,
you're going, right?
Oh, that's right. I'm supposed to do lunch.
You're supposed to do that.
Sweet, you're buying, right?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Where are we going?
Saltgrass Steakhouse.
Oh, I haven't been there yet.
Can I go?
Yes.
Yes.
I would
He is
love
in
for you
charge
to
of
attend.
member development and adding more
There you
people.
go.
So yes, you can come.
Fantastic.
11:30 today. Just meet us there. Saltgrass Steakhouse. The food is awesome.
Yeah, I haven't been there yet.
They're one of our new customers, by the way.
Okay.
So, yeah, we just installed them. They're part of a national account. Being Toshiba dealers, we do a lot of national account work, and so they're one of them. But basically, building a business and adding expanding our territory and getting people aware with what it is that we do.
Yeah.
Most people see Southtel and they think just telephone, and it's not. It's telephone, it's voice, it's data, it's video, it's sound. Yeah, we do it all. So,
what are you finding is like the new, not biggest thing, but where's the movement in your industry heading towards?
Oh, the biggest thing is I want to be able to do everything from my mobile phone or from my laptop from no matter where I am.
Yeah.
That's
just one shot.
That's the
right?
biggest thing. I've got one number. It rings me at the office. It rings me on my cell. It rings to my laptop. You leave me a voicemail. It gives me on my PC. I could retrieve it.
Okay,
via
but
email.
can I make it where they don't all ring at once?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, you can.
Can you help
Absolutely.
me with
Because
that?
I walked into somebody's house who had that, and it was like the iPhone, the iPad, the computer,
the Apple Watch.
Yeah, it was all ringing in one
Everything.
shot.
Yeah, and the really cool thing though is to pick up your cell phone to call a customer,
yeah,
and they see your office number.
yeah.
Somebody calls your office number, it rings your cell phone.
Yeah.
So
Makes you look like you're really dedicated, right?
absolutely. Of course, that when the call rings at 11:30 at night, they go, "What are you doing still at the office?"
Yeah. Yeah, right. Very cool.
I'm working late.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. So what are you all finding? Let's just talk about what's next. I mean, obviously we'll do Iten and you have the symposium, but what's next down the road for the directions that you're heading with community and stuff?
Sure. So right now we're also working closely with Florida's Great Northwest, which is our regional economic development entity. They have been working on, for many years, have been centered around marketing Northwest Florida externally to the rest of the country to attract business investment into the community. We've recently hired a new president and CEO, Kim Wilmes, who came from Enterprise Florida, and she's done a great job at bringing together community stakeholders in Northwest Florida to develop a regional strategy for economic growth. So for the first time in our region, we'll have a comprehensive strategic plan, which is not going to be just a big binder that sits on the shelf somewhere, but something where we're bringing together key stakeholders in diverse sectors throughout Northwest Florida to really be prepared for some potential investment opportunities coming our way, ideally next year. So it's exciting. Again, bringing together different sectors. In particular, I work on our team at really supporting our entrepreneurial sector. So bringing together those partners such as the SBDC, Innovation Coast, our post-secondary institutions, a variety of different partners, incubators, accelerator programs to come together and say, okay, let's asset map and see what we have going on, where are the gaps, and what could we do to really leverage some opportunities to grow our entrepreneurial sector. So that's one of the things I'll be working on.
Are you finding this moving coming from the state level or as much as the local level or more? And then the next question is it being supported and honored as like, okay, you guys are onto a really good thing?
Right. Good question. I think that the time is ripe in Northwest Florida where we're finally recognizing that entrepreneurial development is a legitimate growth strategy for Northwest Florida, and not necessarily talking about some of those supportive foundational industries such as retail or professional services or healthcare that support and serve people within Northwest Florida. Primarily, we're talking about those primary industries that 80% of their revenue and their business is outside the area. So they're generating new wealth for the community, such as primarily some of the pure IT industries, cyber, for example. And so I think that our partners throughout Northwest Florida and communities as a whole are finally seeing that as a key strategy. So incredibly supportive. I think that there have been many communities around the nation. The nation as a whole is, I think, becoming more entrepreneurial in nature, and we're realizing that most of our jobs do come from existing companies and from smaller startups.
Yeah.
So the more that
sort of the foundation of the U.S., right?
Absolutely. And the more that we as a region can intentionally foster that growth instead of it just happening organically, I think the better we are going to be able to be at accelerating.
Yeah,
growth.
certainly faster. Absolutely. Very cool.
Yeah.
New Horizons? Got anything on the horizon? No pun intended.
Well, I think I mentioned the CompTIA program that's coming up that's free. It's that kind of development that we work with all of our vendors to constantly think about, how do we communicate with people of the community and let them know that we're here as a resource. And I think it's more and more the focus is trying to be, do you know? And, are you interested? I always say don't get involved in it for the money. You have to have a passion for technology. But if you do, not all the doors are closed. And I think that every job fair that we do, every tech expo we do, it always reminds me of the number of people that really have an incredible interest and don't necessarily have resources. So I think that we're constantly trying to come up with avenues that make it easier for people to at least get in a 1 or 2 courses. If you can get your A+ certification, your Network Plus, and your Windows, then you are, certified to, be a help desk person.
And I'm assuming you guys have like continuing education and all that stuff too, right?
All of it.
Because I know in the culinary world that I was in with Morrison's, and because it was in healthcare, it was 80 hours a year. And, it was always like the last 2 weeks that you were like drilling
trying to cram it in.
Yeah.
So it's really, I think that we're just getting started. I've only been with New Horizons since January, so it's been a short amount of time. But I think that us as a company, we're just scratching the surface on how to reach out and get involved in the community so that everywhere we look, we can have a touch point. And it really does change people's lives. When I worked up in New York, and I actually worked for a nonprofit that sent kids to school to get their A+ certification for free. And it really showed me that you get companies like Estee Lauder to recycle their electronics with us as a recycler, as a nonprofit. You give kids a free way to get an A+ certification. They refurbish the computers, so they get internships and get experience, real world experience. And then we give those computers away to kids in the community that don't have the funds for them. Because even when, we recently had a VA student actually that came through, and it didn't take us long to understand that he was staying like very late every night. And a big part of the reason was he did not have a computer. So we actually, it just goes to show, it goes back to what I learned with the nonprofit, which is, even when they have the opportunity, there's barriers to actually getting there.
Right.
And we took up a collection and just, and got him a laptop, but it changes not just his world.
Right.
It changes his ability to make a living, but it changes, he's got, 3 or 4 daughters, because every time he had to come in and do something, he brought them with him. And they now have a computer. So, there's a lot more about technology that comes with making a living, building up a community. And it's that technology and the results of getting that education that I think people are maybe not as aware of. So my goal for the New Horizons here is to really keep getting involved and keep thinking about ways to reach out to people that may not know how to get to point A, which I think is a great way to get them on a path to having, being able to really
to be a catalyst.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So Laura, talking about A+ certification, if you've got somebody that's interested in doing that, what kind of time frame are they looking at to make that happen?
Well, the A+ certification, there's on the consumer side of it, it's actually a 2-week class. On the business side of it, if you need your certifications, it's a 1-week class. But there's a lot of effort that goes into that. So our courses are really meant to be geared towards giving you every bit of information that you need to be able to get certified, to pass the certification exam. But you have to study. and you have to practice. So along with the course, let's just call it that 2-week course for a consumer, what we do is we record every class so that the consumer gets 6 months to continue to review that class. They can go back to sections that they may be struggling with. We give them practice exams so they can tell where they are. And they have practice labs that they continue to go in and practice what they're learning to give them the best possible chance. So they have all of that for the cost of the class.
Very cool. Cool. All right. So as far as sort of some of the things on the horizon, like I think Curtis and I struggle with it's not even really a struggle. It's just this is the way some of our business evolved because we deal with communications. And because we deal with data, I think I see a lot of people trying to find a way to either tell their story, right, or trying to find a way to reach some potential customer or some potential client or in some way, shape, or form serve the community that they're in. And one of the things that I always see happening is one, I hear a lot of people's needs, so it's kind of cool because then we get to come up with some new stuff. And one of them happens to end up being, wrapped into sort of the marketing or the digital or the branding and stuff. And I've noticed that, like Curtis with you and some of the things that have changed, even in your world as your business has evolved, you've moved into some of being able to create some ways to tell stories and stuff, right? Yes. With the whiteboard thing. So yes. I'm speaking for both of us, but correct me if I'm wrong. One of the things that happens here is that as these businesses evolve, all of a sudden we're doing stuff that maybe we didn't originally jump in, going for.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what's caused our industry has evolved because of the technology and because we were just the telephone company and we let the data guys do their thing. Well, now we have to be the data guys because our telephone systems run over the data network. They don't have separate cabling. So that kind of got us into it. Then you get into the data networking and you get into the data infrastructure. Then it opens up other doors. Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing now is the whiteboard presentations. And that just, it's able for us to go in and develop a cartoon drawing, so to speak, that explains what a company does because people will respond to a whiteboard presentation better than they will an advertisement. If you do a TV commercial and it's just people on the screen, they're going to watch it like they watch a regular TV program. Mm-hmm. If you put something that's in a draw format or in a whiteboard presentation format, then they're going to look at that and they're going to pay attention to what's on that screen.
Sure, something different, something new.
So, yeah, absolutely.
I can see Curtis in the dark going, man, we got to figure out a different way to do this PowerPoint deck because I'm so bored with this PowerPoint.
Absolutely.
Next thing you know, he's drawing cartoons. He's like, hey, this is like a really good idea, right? Yeah, and then all of a sudden it evolves into something that, other clients and customers could probably use.
Yeah, it's PowerPoint on steroids. I mean,
it really is.
It's taking it and taking your ideas and going, this is what I want to see happen. And we make that happen on a whiteboard and it develops in front of your eyes or in front of your customer's eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same kind. Like even with us adding video and stuff, and really just chopping up some snippets and stuff for our clients to be able to have pieces of like things that we talk about. Right? We were here to talk. It's a show, but now we're finding a need for people really want to capture that kind of thought leadership and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So we've gotten into the sort of the video editing piece of this world, which for me is fun because it kind of feels like mini Hollywood. But anyway,
absolutely.
All right. Well, we're getting to the end of time, and Jen had a conference call that she had to get to, so she had to leave a little early. So, I'll give the shout out for her, and we'll definitely include all of her links to Gulf Power and the stuff that they've got going on in the community when we repost on itenwired.businessradiox.com. But I would like both of you to give shout outs and websites and phone numbers and all that way for people who can get in touch with you.
Laura?
Sure. So I am with Laura Campbell with New Horizons Computer Learning Centers. I did want to mention that we are also giving away
that's right. The scholarships.
Yeah, two $30,000 scholarships.
That's so awesome.
For the Iten Wired conference. So we've already gotten plenty of people that have not just signed up to attend, but actually have sent in emails to be part of the giveaway for the free education. We can be reached at www.nhsolutions.com. Or sorry, let me do that again. www.nhsolutionshub.com. And our main phone number here in Pensacola is 850-462-1200.
Very cool.
And I, of course, am with Saltel, and we do voice, data, video, and sound. We can be reached
and whiteboard
presentations, and we can be reached at www.southtel.com or at 850-610-4999.
Very good. I want to thank both of you all for joining us today. And again, I'll have to thank Jen when she gets out of her conference call. But if anybody needs any more information on I-10 Wired, you can visit i10wired.com. If you want to follow I-10 Wired Radio, it's i10.businessradiox.com, or you can find them on Twitter at I-10 Wired, or you can find us at Pensacola BRX or Pensacola.businessradiox.com, or find us on Facebook. Just look up I-10, ITEN, or look up Pensacola Business Radio, and all of our stuff and facts will be there. We'll also repost this show later today, and we'll put video up on our YouTube. So again, thank you all for coming in today. And
glad to be here.
This has been I-10 Wired Radio.
It's been great. Thanks for having me.
This show is brought to you by IT Gulf Coast, Florida West, and App River. If you are interested in sponsoring I-10 Wired Radio, please call 850-288-9959.